Hey folks, Aaron here from Aaron's Practical Reviews. Hello. Got some big news coming out from Canon this week, right? We got the announcement of the T8i and also the new R5, which is replacing the, I believe, they're in their DSLR lineup, their Pro Series 5D Mark IV. I think they're going over to mirrorless. I don't know if they're going to, we don't know yet what's happening there. But anyways, the main thing I want to discuss here is the new T8i. So let's jump right into the 4K. Okay, so they're doing 4K video now, and it's going to be, from what their website shows, 23.97 frames per second, with the caveat that it does not have dual pixel autofocus. If you look right here, this little tiny asterisk, you will see that it's contrast autofocus. Some variation of that is probably not even nearly as accurate as dual pixel or as smooth. Obviously it's not going to track as well as the dual pixel autofocus. So I don't know why they did that. That is a major downer. Pretty much the only real downer I've seen with these specs so far. So another feature that they added to this that I'm not familiar with in Canon's lineup, because I wouldn't use it anyways, but vertical video, where you can, I guess, turn the camera and it will shoot the video, vertically like you would see in your cell phone for certain social media apps or certain ways you upload things to fit vertically on a cell phone or something like that. So they added that for vloggers or, whatever reason you might use that for. Okay, secondly, they've made some really nice changes to the layouts of the button, and they've added this dial, which this dial now will control the aperture. So you don't have to hit this button up here like you did on the T7i and toggle between the aperture and the shutter speed to change that. Now you can change them both pretty much simultaneously. Now you still got to hit the ISO button, but having that option is huge. And also with this, you can use it to change your focal points in your viewfinder. You can move one to the left and then turn the dial to move it up and down, or vice versa, however it is lined up in there. But my point is it adds a lot more flexibility to your style of shooting. And also with that, it makes the transition into some of their higher end cameras much easier, because all of the Canon's higher end cameras go you up from the, the 90D, the 6D Mark II, and all the way up. They have that dial there as well. On the T7i, there was a lot of different modes on the dial that you just didn't use, or you hardly ever used, or you never used. They just weren't relevant enough to have space for on the dial, and quite frankly, they were probably more confusing than they were useful to most people. So I think it's a good idea to simplify this dial, and it just looks better with less clutter. And they've taken a really good experience I felt from the T7i and made it better in these subtle changes, and then some of these pretty drastic changes. So just with those few things right there, it's definitely huge upgrades, and it's almost like they were actually listening to their customers, which is pretty rare this day and age, right? Another thing that they added that I found extremely useful on the 90D for a couple reasons is the face detection and eye detection. Okay, so that may not sound like it's very useful or important, but if you, for example, like to take portraits and you like to turn your camera for portraits, right? If you like to portrait, if you hit live view mode, your subject will pop up here, and the box will follow their face, and you can just start snapping pictures and basically set your aperture to what you want, and it'll do the work following them, and you can just follow them along and it's locked on their face and on their eye, and it takes excellent portraits that way. It's just a real easy way to do it. But also now with the T8i, same with the 90D, they've added the feature in the Optical Viewfinder. So it also prioritizes faces in the Optical Viewfinder. So again, if you want to use the Optical Viewfinder in the same way in portrait mode, it will prioritize their face, just making it that much easier and more enjoyable and less hassle. So it sounds little, but when you take all of these little tweaks, it really adds up to a better experience. And they've made this very similar, in my opinion, to the 90D in some of the additions up, if you're coming from the T7i, for example, because that's what I used for a long time. And it's like a stripped down 90D, the same way the T7i was kind of a stripped down 80D. So that is not a bad thing at all. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. That is an excellent thing. These cameras are excellent. The T7i was an amazing camera for me, and I believe the T8i is going to be that much better for anybody picking it up from the beginner to, and now with that the addition of some of these features that we're talking about, I think it's going to be great for the intermediate or even, an advanced photographer. I think would really enjoy the T8i more now with these features. So one more thing that I do want to mention is that the T8i is coming in with a 24.1 megapixel sensor, and the T7i had a 24.2 megapixel sensor. Okay, so what does that mean? I think that it doesn't mean anything. I think that it means that they're going to be very similar in the image quality of photos. However, in video, because of the addition of the 4K, the T8i is going to be able to shoot much better video. I mean, in 4K. And again, I'm going on my experience here. The 90D, the 1080p looked a lot better, in my opinion, on the 90D than it did on the 6D Mark II or even on the T7i. So I'm willing to say, based on that camera and the experience I had with that the 1080p will also look better on the T8i. Okay, it's got the new processor, it's got the new eye tracking, and those things combined, with the chipset or whatever else they upgraded, for whatever reason on the 90D makes a huge difference in 1080p, which I'm filming with right now, 1080p on the 90D. It is just much sharper than even the full frame 6D Mark II. It's 1080p, same exact settings. The 1080p on this looks better, and I believe the same is going to be true on the T8i. Again, I'm just going on my experience with their recent releases and what I've learned over the past couple of years using basically nothing but Canon cameras. Excited about this one. So, I would say anybody who has a T7i, look, you still got a great camera. They just took the things, like always, that the T7i could have had to make it better, and they gave it to this camera to make it a little bit better in a lot of different ways, which will enhance your experience with it. So there you go. Whether you would upgrade from the T7i to this, like I said, I don't think you're going to get a huge bump in image quality for photos, for the photographers out there. But I think for video, if 4K is important to you, then yes, absolutely. This is a huge deal. So that's it. I mean, it's pretty exciting. And with the release of the new R5 that's coming out, whenever it comes out, that's really exciting because that's the one that I'm looking at. I don't know how I'm going to afford it, but that's the one I'm looking at. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. As usual, subscribe. Leave any comments if you have any questions. If I can't answer them, usually there's somebody who can. And have a great day.